Okay, I know a few of us are settling in the back. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It's great to be here in Taipei. We have Qualcomm's President and CEO, Cristiano Amon, coming right off of a fantastic keynote. So, congratulations. The time is 3:30. I know we have quite a bit of scheduled items ahead, and many of you need to head off to various events. So we're going to keep this short and tight. There are mics situated on either side of the room. So please raise your hand, state your name and publication, and we're going to kick things off. So we got the first question over here on the right.
Hi, Cristiano. Mario Morales from IDC. Great presentation. I was really excited to hear a lot of the stuff that you're doing around the commercial space. And I just wanted to ask you, some of your competition has used a vPro platform for a very long time to manage and drive performance within the enterprises. Do you think that Snapdragon and your ecosystem needs to do something similar as you look to the enterprise?
Yes. Good to see you. Thank you so much for the question. I think what I said at the very beginning, I don't know if the mic is on, is it on?
Yes.
What I said at the very beginning of the presentation, we are on this journey with Microsoft to bring a new platform and to get that deployed to a lot of organizations. It's also happened at the same time. There's a big transition to how you think about device management into the enterprise with some of the stuff that Microsoft is doing in bringing new experiences. So I think the best way for me to answer that question is we have a lot of unique things from a security standpoint. I think also there's a lot of security features that are being deployed using the NPU. It's about the future of the enterprise. It's about where the enterprise is going to go. It's about how the enterprise is going to evolve their device management across multiple devices, not only one device. And I think we're embarking into that train. So it's really about driving the future of deployment of those devices in the enterprise versus trying to recreate what was happening before.
Hello, we're starting to hear a lot of news about your data center CPUs. What I was wondering is are you initially just going to target kind of the high end with those and then perhaps later bring it down? What is the scope of that initiative?
Look, we haven't yet made the specific product roadmap announcement for the data center. I think you saw some of the news starting to come up. I think from partners, I think maybe the first official news that you saw was the announcement we did with Humane in Saudi Arabia, which is a new AI company, which is going to deploy some technology in the data center. I think you saw today a great announcement from NVIDIA that we're just joining the ecosystem as a CPU provider. And pretty soon, we want to walk you to our detailed roadmap, as that's going to come shortly. But I think I'm just going to repeat what I said on stage. We have two very interesting assets. I think we have a very disruptive CPU architecture. It's from both a performance and power. That's going to be really very relevant, especially when you think about the news. Every AI accelerator needs a CPU, and I think it creates an opportunity. We're very flexible. And then the other part of it is when you think about what's happening on the edge, our DNA is high performance, very low power computing. That creates some interesting when you think about AI getting the scale on the inference. So that's where we're going to play. We're going to provide more details.
Hello, this is Odia, and my question is, will PC be the edge AI infrastructure in the future? If so, will Qualcomm classify it under the Dragon Wing or isolate some revenue growth of this space through some new technology investment, like interface technology?
Thank you for the question. I think there's a number of questions in there. I'm going to try to break it one at a time. I think maybe I'll talk about a little bit the brand because you mentioned Dragon Wing. The way you should think about it, every time there is a person on the other side of Qualcomm technology, that's Snapdragon. And I think Snapdragon, you see it on the phone, you see it on a PC, you see it on the car. When you're inside the cockpit of the car and there's a person interacting with our technology, you see that on a watch, you see that on a glass. And I think when you start to think a lot of the computing for machines, for robotics, for industrial, that's where you see our Dragonwing roadmap. The Qualcomm AI technology scales across all of those type of devices. One of the unique things about the story of growth and diversification of Qualcomm, we build our IP so that our CPU, our GPU, our multimedia, our AI could scale across those devices. All the way from an earbud on one side to a data center on the other side, and I think that's going to be across both the Snapdragon and the Jaguar brands. And I think, if I understood, the first part of the question is, I expect that as AI PCs started to really get the AI part at scale with a lot of the new use cases, with a new agentic AI experience, those devices and phones and other devices are started to be very similar from an experience standpoint, because those agentic AI experiences, they break the boundaries that we know today of OSs and App Store and apps. They redefine everything. They redefine what a SaaS is. They redefine what an OS is. And I think that's going to bring some of those experiences together. That's why we're spending so much time on the multi-device experience, and our partners on the ecosystem are doing the same thing.
Hello, my name is Kazuki Kasara from PC Watch Japan. So last year, I think ARM CEO, so Rene, said their target is 50% until 2030. So could you give me your current market share is enough to penetration for this kind of target? So in until 2030 something.
So you're asking about Qualcomm market share projections in the PC? Is that the question?
Yeah. First.
Okay. So very good. I'll tell you exactly what we said publicly. And I am going to probably bring back some of the comments I made both at the last earnings call that we have and the one at the quarter before that. Last year we had an investor day that we talk about the diversification of Qualcomm. And we talk about, the company is put a target about $22 billion of non-mobile revenues. And we broke down by different business, by automotive, by our networking business, by PC, the XR business, and industrial, etc. In PC, we make a very reasonable projection. We said for the addressable market, it's really the addressable market, those laptops and AI PC, we said we expect to get to 12% market share by 2029, and that's going to generate about $4 billion of revenues. Now, where are we on this journey? So when we announced this, we kind of reported in our first fiscal quarter that in the markets that we launched, we first launched in US retail, consumer focus, we were at 10%. Now, this back quarter that just passed and we reported, we expand the channel from US plus European top 5, 9%. So the 12% seems like by 2029, seems like a very reasonable target. So we're just going to keep marching forward. I think people are excited about our technology. I think as AI started to get scale on the use cases, our technology is going to shine even more. So I have a lot of confidence in the targets we're going.
Thank you.
Question for gentleman.
Hakkar Khan from Shiptolit.net. Can you tell us about the plan for the robots? And can we see more Snapdragon processors in robots?
I love your question. Thank you very much. So I am going to answer this question by first highlighting something important. If you look what happened to our company, right? I think our core business is and will remain mobile devices, but we started to expand. And the first one that we took to expand at scale, it was a car, automotive. And you look at the business we built in automotive. There are unique things about automotive. It's mobile, it's untethered, it's unplugged, right? And it needs a lot of computing. And the differentiation of Qualcomm is we came out of the automotive with a platform that has a lot of computing and a very efficient power consumption. You could not put a server on the trunk of a car. Okay, so then we picked the PC, was also mobile. So robotics is natural for Qualcomm because a robot is untethered, is battery powered. You expect to have a lot of computing and a lot of battery life. So you're going to see a lot of happening within robotics. It's within our industrial activity right now. We have engagement with a number of companies right now. And I think it's going to be a very big business for Qualcomm. It's going to be as significant as what we have done in automotive. And that is where our technology shines, because you're unconnected to the power source. You have to be connected to the cloud all the time. You have to have mobility, and you have to have high performance computing with low battery life. That's our DNA.
It's Wen Yuli with Reuters. I was just curious, since you just announced the data center, getting to the data center market, how do you see a more diversified IP portfolio, such as from Alphawave, would be able to help your data center market?
Look, as I said, we are going to pretty soon unveil what our product roadmap is for the data center. We're very excited about it. I think the same thing I said on stage. Why not? It's a market that will continue to grow. More and more computing is going to go to the cloud. It's a very large addressable market, and we can create IP that is very unique on the CPU and on the inference processing, especially at inference at scale. We are building a flexible product roadmap that our IP can be utilized in the data center multiple ways, in combination with other IP, or unique as a CPU. You saw, for example, the announcement from NVIDIA about our CPU supporting the NVIDIA ecosystem IP. So you should expect from Qualcomm a very flexible offering, really focused on trying to make sure our CPU technology can be deployed at different settings. And I unfortunately cannot say more, but we will announce a detailed product roadmap very soon. Ian, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, I'll take a CPU question, but I'll ask something slightly different. When you announced Orion, you did give this vision that it would be everywhere and anywhere. But with announcements such as with Humane, how does that accelerate the roadmap you would have had before? And how does that change how you build your processes going forward now that you have this target with a very big dollar number attached?
Look, the short answer is we're incredibly busy right now. I think the CPU team is really, really busy. But I wanted to answer your question by showing a little bit the scorecard. We really have something unique in our company. There was the ability to scale our IP very fast. For example, I'm just going to start with the CPU. Orion CPU got developed. First, we deploy it on Snapdragon X. Then, a completely different CPU with 30% improvement, we deploy on Snapdragon 8 Elite for mobile. Then, we deploy on Snapdragon Ride and Snapdragon Cockpit Elite for automotive with the safety technology required for automotive. It's a safety-grade CPU designed for safety. Now we're going to soon, you need to come to Snapdragon Summit, you're going to see the next instantiation of Orion for compute, and we're building for data centers. So the short answer to your question is, our team's very busy, but we actually have created an ability to scale our IP, and that technology can basically going to be everywhere. Thank you.
Hello. Not again.
Oh, sorry. You can go first.
Hello again. Adrian Branco from Dynamic France. I've got a more, this time it won't be a question about CPU, GPU, core counts. It's going to be a more prospective question. Dorga Maladi during MWC was talking about your personal AI agent. The transformation of software, okay, through these agents. Is Qualcomm working on the AI continuity of it? You got the CPU processor in the computer, and I'm talking to him. He's answering back to me. I'm using other kinds of agent on my phone. Do you see a future, do you see a way, or are you working on infrastructure to fusion all these agents to make my personal agent available across all devices because you control all devices?
That's a great question. This is a great question, and I'm going to try to answer the best that I can right now, and I'm going to answer also with a perspective. Okay. So what is happening from a strategy standpoint, we're really focused on building the best possible processor to make sure all of this become a reality. We're not in the business ourselves of creating AI agents. We're in the business of enabling any AI agent, any model, bring your own model. However, you bring something very important. There's one thing that is happening, and there's a lot of technology we've been developing, which is your context is very important. Because your personal agent knows the context, so what conversations you have, what's your own data, what is your own profile, what are the things that are personal to you, and what are the things you do on different devices. And remember, across those different devices, there are different ecosystems. And sometimes they interoperate with each other, sometimes they don't. So I think we're spending a lot of time and some very interesting technologies to actually work with our partners to make sure the context from you is preserved on the device and can be shared across different devices. So that's an area of focus to enable this. And it's going to be part of how we think about products going forward. Come to Snapdragon Summit, you're going to like what you're going to see.
Question from Taiwan Sunny Television.
Hello, welcome back to Summit. I'm
Thank you.
Jackie from SAP TV. Are there any plans like expanding like Taiwan ecosystem, like Taiwan partnerships such as TSMC?
Great question. I think the answer to your question is there are many opportunities. I think historically we've always been a very big customer of TSMC. You continue to be a big customer of TSMC. For chip manufacturing, we're among the largest fabless. Most people don't know we ship about 40 billion components every year, and I think TSMC is our primary manufacturing partner. But the second part of the answer is the more interesting one. Taiwan has always been very, very strong on the PC ecosystem. As now we become a player, our relationships with the PC ecosystem of Taiwan, especially the ODMs, all the new, I think, hardware designs, industrial that we talk about it today, that is increasing at a very fast pace. Our Taiwan team is busy, is expanding, and I think we're here to stay. Thank you.
Hi, Cristiano. Tim Metzger from. Oh.
Where are you? I can't see you.
Hi,
Thank
Tim
you.
Metzger from Around PC in Germany. Do you have any comment yet on the Xiaomi X-Ring 01 SoC?
Look, I think, as I said, we have a very long, very big relationship with Xiaomi. Xiaomi will continue to use Qualcomm for a lot of their flagships. I think different companies sometimes had developed their own silicon. I think, for example, Samsung had their own silicon forever. I even remember that even since 2G. And we continue to have a great relationship with Samsung. I expect that to be the case. The most important thing is how you think about flagships. We have been the main partner of Xiaomi for all of their flagships and continue to be the case. So I think from our perspective, nothing has really changed and will not change in our relationship with Xiaomi.
Developers see this as an opportunity to scale their AI models and build once and deploy many times, right? Have you used that in your messaging, or have you started using that?
Yes, good to see you. Thank you for the question. Yes, there is now a lot of interest, especially developers on hybrid AI. I think and remember, this is developing. This is developing. We're just the beginning. there are many different models. You see now companies have their own models, but are incorporating a lot of open source models. And as you start to think about mix of experts, those models get smaller, they're very focused. You can have developers saying, I'm just going to add the model as the front end of my app. My app may not be an agent yet, but I will start adding components of it, and they actually like a lot this concept of hybrid. What we have done with our software stack is models are going to be created elsewhere. They're going to get created in an NVIDIA ecosystem. Train on NVIDIA, and then you can run this anywhere. And I think a lot of what we have done in the framework, it's you can bring your own model, you have tools so you can optimize the model. In the model, sometimes you want to run on the PC, you want to run on the phone, maybe you wanted the model to be quantized for you to run into a wearable device. And I think developers like that. And a lot of the interest that we have within the developer enablers, it's because of that. That's why we're great to show some of those things on stage today.
Hi, I'm Kwon from Children Korea, and is it safe to say that all legal issues with ARM have been resolved and you're still using ARM IPs on other components rather than Orion CPUs? So what will Qualcomm and ARM's relationship be going forward?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think I'll remind you all, we had last year we had our trial with ARM, and we came very successful. And I think everything that we said would happen happened. Qualcomm is fully licensed to the ARM IP, and our Orion is all based on our architecture license. We're licensed on the use of the ARM instruction set. I think it's also public. The ARM withdraw, I think their requests to terminate the Qualcomm license, that's going to be validated in court. And we're incredibly happy that exactly what we said would happen, it did happen. We will continue to build ARM compliant CPUs. Those have been part of the Orion family. We're going to take that everywhere. And that's also what we're doing in the data center. Having said that, our trial against ARM is scheduled for next year, in the beginning of the year. We continue with that, but that's our claim against them. That's not the claim against us. Thank you.
Okay, I think we have time for 2 more questions. One more.
Okay. Hey, Cristiano, Brian Mott, IDC. When you were on stage, you brought up context and writing.
Writer,
thank you. You can tell, by the way, I fumbled that question that I'm not familiar with these companies, so I guess I'm hoping to get a better understanding from you on how you expect that to develop. How quickly do you expect that to develop? Because if I heard your messaging correctly, it's about leveraging their agentic infrastructures, their processes to run on device, right? Given how early we are in this whole era of agentic AI, I'm not sure how quickly are we going to get to the point where there's elements of on-device on there, and then maybe by extension of that, are your partnerships with these 2 companies exclusive to your silicon as opposed to your competitors? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is a great question. This is actually the key message we wanted to have on this keynote, and that's why I make the analogy with the feature phone to smartphone transition. That's a very important one. There's so many developers coming with new idea, and really the AI revolution, the AI PC revolution is going to happen based on third-party developers. There will be incredible features from the OS, there will be incredible features from the OEM, but the third-party developers, and you're going to see new companies. I remember in the early days of the smartphone, there's so many new companies that people didn't know, and it became a reality because of the smartphone. Uber is a great example of that. And I feel those companies are starting to show up everywhere. And you're going to see a combination. You're going to see very large established ISVs adding AI capabilities, and you're going to see new companies that have no legacy just develop agentic AI experiences. We're just at the beginning of that. Those companies are targeting all the PC. Nothing is exclusive to Qualcomm. Remember, you can run this on the Windows ecosystem. You can run this on Android ecosystem. You can run this. So you're going to see things coming on phones. You're going to see coming on PC. And the important thing is there is a paradigm shift. There is a paradigm shift. OSs and apps are going to be reimagined. I go back to the transition from feature phone to smartphone. We used to call those software applications, we used to call them programs. programs on a PC. All of a sudden, we start calling apps because they scale phones. This is going to change again, and I think those constructs that we have in our head about an OS and an app store is going to be different, and I think that's just the beginning. And like those two companies, there are going to be many others that we all going to hear and know about it within the next couple quarters.
Okay, last question.
Hi, I'm Katie from Economic Daily News. I'm curious, when is the earliest we can expect to see Qualcomm's data center products? Maybe next year or 2027?
Soon we are going to announce the product roadmap, and I think those dates are going to become more clear. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time speaking with us. I really appreciate that. Thank you.